Kathy took a sip of wine and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 1 o'clock on Saturday. She did not normally drink this early and alone, but this was a special occasion. She stared at the thin red box on the coffee table. She had received it last Saturday. She had received many others over the years. Usually, they were received with great delight. This one was different. This was not a happy one. She picked up the box and went into her bedroom. She placed the box on the bed and opened her closet. She rummaged through the shoes and boxes of keepsakes she kept on the floor in the rear of her closet until she found a shoe box-sized plastic case. She opened the lid and saw the row of boxes inside. There were many white boxes, 2 silver, 1 gold, 4 blue, and 1 black box. She placed the red box at the rear of the line of thin boxes in the shoe box. She wondered why she kept the box and the contents inside. For some reason, she could never part with them. Randomly, she picked up the 3rd box and opened it. The contents of which were a card and a CD. She slipped the CD into a player, and the tender melody of When I Fall in Love by the Lettermen came out of the speakers. She picked up the card and read what was written on it. The card did not say who it was from or to whom it was given. There was no need for it. She knew who had sent it to her. She had received it at her work along with a large bouquet of flowers. All the girls in the office gathered around Kathy to see who sent her such a beautiful arrangement. She smiled confidently as she opened the box, took out the CD, and slipped it into the player on her desk. The girls started teasing Kathy. "Who is this guy sending you flowers and love songs at work?" Some wanted to know what was on the card that came with the letter. Kathy waited for the appropriate part of the song to start reciting what was on the card. When the right place in the song came, she started to read, "When I give my heart, I give it completely or I'll never fall in love. In the moment I can feel that you feel that way too, is when I fall in love with you." The girls got quiet while she read the words printed on the card. When she was done and the music stopped, the girls started in again. One co-worker named Grace said, "This is a special guy. I'm jealous. Does he have a brother?" As Kathy was once more listening to the music, she looked up to see Grace absent-mindedly moving the flowers about. She quietly commented to Kathy, "You have received a wonderful gift today from a special man." "Thank you. The flowers are beautiful, aren't they?" replied Kathy. Grace looked at her surprised and was about to speak. Instead, she turned and walked away. The girls finally went back to work. Kathy, for the first time, thought that maybe she did have something special. She was sure it would be if it weren't for John Williams. John was her first love. He was her first boyfriend. He was the boy who took her to the prom. He was the boy who took her virginity when she was a junior in high school. They made love all the way through the last 2 years of high school. The last time was the night before he left to go to college. He was always in the back of her mind. He always had a little piece of her heart that made it impossible to commit to another man completely. After graduation, John went to Stanford in California to study medicine. Kathy went to a community college in her home state of Florida. At first, they exchanged phone calls and letters. After a while, the letters stopped, and the phone calls became less frequent, to be replaced by emails. Soon, the emails ended as well. After a while, Kathy dropped out of school and took a job with Allstate Insurance Company. Now she worked 9 to 5, sitting at a computer. She answered phones, sold insurance, typed letters, and any other duties that fell her way. Her day consisted of the same routine: get up, go to work, and come home. It was not satisfying, but it paid the bills. The only relief was her nights out with her friend Lisa. She kept hoping to hear from John. Then she heard from some of John's friends that he was dating a pre-med student at college. She now knew why all contact had been broken off. For weeks, she was depressed and cried herself to sleep every night. Yet, she still had a dream of what could have been. What would her life be like if John came back? She still had expectations of her knight in white armor returning to sweep Kathy out of her boring existence to enjoy the life of a doctor's wife. Kathy would then become Mrs. Dr. John Williams. She led her fantasy life as well as her real life. Self-esteem centered around John Williams. He became almost a mythological figure that no mere human could match. As weeks became months and John did not return, she tried to put him out of her mind and move on. Yet, even if she did not realize it, he was always there. Kathy had always been an attractive girl, not a beauty in a classic sense, but she had an earthy sensuality that drew men to her. Even when she was dating John, it did not stop other boys from trying to hit on her. She stood 5 feet 5 inches tall. She had long brown hair, usually parted down the middle of her head and flipped back towards her face, just under her chin. She possessed flawless olive-colored skin with brown eyes that sparkled when she laughed, betraying her Italian heritage. Long, lean dancer's legs finished off the package. When viewed together, it was a very enjoyable sight. After she was sure that John was out of her life for good, she had a number of relationships with men. Only one turned sexual and lasted for 5 months before she broke it off. Incredibly, she felt guilty, as she was still carrying a torch for John. Her guilt over what she considered cheating broke up most of her relationships with men. Her reputation was not that of an easy score. She was 25 years old when she met Tom. He was not like all the other men she had dated in the past. Tom had enlisted in the army when he was 18, serving 6 years, including 1 tour each in Iraq, Germany, and Afghanistan in that order. Upon returning home to Florida, he opened a small automotive repair shop not too far from Kathy's work. Tom thought it was fate when he saw Kathy and her dancer's legs walk into the shop. He was sitting behind his desk in his office at the rear of the shop, and she did not see him. She was with her best friend Lisa, who she had driven to work that morning. She had on a white low-cut top with black polka dots, a short black miniskirt, and black high heels finished her look. Tom was mesmerized. He had never seen a woman as exquisite as this. "Hello," Kathy called out, "is anybody here?" Tom walked out of the office and said, "Can I help you, miss?" Kathy explained that her car would not start and it was in the parking lot of the insurance company right down the street. It was around closing time, and she knew he must want to go home. She hoped he would be like all the other men she had met in her life and would do anything she wanted if she showed a little of what she had. As she was telling him where her car was, she accidentally dropped her keys from her hand and bent over to pick them up. This caused her to roll forward in her blouse to give him a good view. When she stood back up, she knew she had him by the look of desire on his face. She laughed to herself that this was too easy. He could barely get his eyes off her cleavage. When he finally tore his eyes away from her cleavage, she gave him a pout with her lips and asked if he would help her. Tom looked at those soft, full lips and wondered what kissing them would be like. Tom stuttered when he told her that he would take the tow truck and pick up her car and bring it to the shop to look at it. As the two girls walked behind him to the truck, they gave each other knowing looks. They had both used their looks to manipulate men many times. He walked her to the passenger door and helped her manage the high step to get into the cab, getting a good look at her sculpted calves and thighs. He received the same show from Lisa when he helped her in the truck as well. When Tom got in the truck and started down to her car, it gave Kathy a chance to give him the once-over. She noticed his muscular arms, his muscles rippled when he shifted gears. She could tell he had short but muscular legs by the tightness of his pants. He had black hair cut short and combed straight back. She noticed he had kind green eyes and full, soft, kissable lips. When he turned to give her a reassuring smile, she could feel an attraction and thought it might be fun to play with this one for a while. She was sure it would not go too far, as he was a grease jockey and his job was not up to her standards. Yet it might be fun for as long as it lasted. When they arrived at the parking lot, Tom opened the hood on her late-model Camry. After looking inside for a while, he noticed that the ground wire had come loose. A few turns with a screwdriver, and Tom told her to try to start the car. Much to Kathy's surprise, it started right up. Kathy gave Tom a huge smile, and he smiled back. He was furiously thinking of something to say, trying some way to spend some more time with this attractive woman, but could not come up with anything. Kathy got out of the car and asked, "How much do I owe you for the quick fix?" Tom would not take anything for this small service. He said just getting that big smile was payment enough. Kathy looked into those green eyes, walked to this handsome mechanic's side, and gave him a kiss on the cheek as she said, "Thank you so much." When she backed away, she could see his face turn 3 shades of red. As she walked to the car door, an idea came to her. Quickly turning to face him, she asked, "Would you like dinner at my place tomorrow night as payment for the repair?" With widened eyes and a smile, he replied, "Yes, I would like that a lot." For a second, Kathy thought about John and had an inkling of regret, but as soon as it came, it went away. She had a good feeling about this man who was a stranger no more than an hour ago. She felt she could trust him. She actually found him intriguing. She had a hunch he would not be a mechanic for long, and her hunches were rarely wrong. Taking a business card from her purse, she smiled and handed it to him, saying, "Call me tomorrow, and I'll give you directions to my apartment." As he took the card, she caressed his cheek with her other hand and said, "Thank you again for helping me today." She turned to leave and put a little more sway into her hips as she walked back to her car. When she looked back, she was pleased to see her little display had worked. Not a muscle moved as he watched her walk away. She smiled once again and drove off down the street. Finally, Tom regained his composure and smiled to himself as he got into his truck. He would definitely be calling her tomorrow. In fact, he could hardly wait. Lisa tore into Kathy when she left the parking lot. "What are you thinking? You hardly know this guy. What if he's an axe murderer or something like that? Besides, I know you, a mechanic is not the type of guy you typically date." Kathy was unruffled. "You know where he works. If anything happens, you can tell the police who I was with. Besides, I am sure he's okay." Reluctantly, Lisa agreed. "You have to promise to call me when the date is over to make sure you were okay. Getting the juicy details is just a bonus." Both girls laughed as they sped down the street. She told him to be at her apartment at 7 p.m. He was there at 6:45 but waited outside till 7 before entering her apartment building. He did not want to seem too eager, even if he really couldn't wait to see her again. He knocked on the door and waited for the door to open. Kathy was at the stove, stirring the pot of sauce she had made to go with dinner when she heard the knock. She went to the mirror on the wall to check on her outfit one last time and waited. She smiled as Tom knocked again outside. He was wondering where she was. Had she had a change of heart? Anxiety overcame him, and he knocked again. At the third knock, Kathy smiled again to herself. Making the guy wait always took some of the confidence and swagger out of them. Kathy called out, "Be right there." Tom was relieved when the door swung open, and Kathy was there, smiling at him. She invited him in, and he gave her a bottle of wine and a small bouquet of flowers. She thanked him for the gifts and made a big deal about the flowers, placing them in a vase on the table where they would be eating. He took in her beauty as she cut the flower stems and placed them in the vase. She was wearing a white blouse which buttoned up the front with the 3 top buttons undone. The blouse was tucked into a pair of tight black jeans. She was barefoot. Somehow, she seemed so erotic walking barefoot in her tight jeans that Tom was suddenly filled with desire for this woman that he had really known for only a few moments in time. Dinner was chicken cacciatore with spaghetti. It was made with her own homemade sauce. The food was delightful. It had been a long time since he had a home-cooked meal. As good as the food was, the conversation was enchanting. They told each other about where they had been and what they had done, and where they wanted the future to take them. Tom learned that Kathy had some college and an artistic bent. She took some art courses in college and was quite good at watercolors. In fact, she had some well-done pieces hanging in her small home. Kathy listened to stories about his time in the army, some of them graphic enough to make Kathy wince. She could hear the pain in his voice, and it brought tears to her eyes. She found that he was not a mechanic in a small shop, but that he was the owner of 3 shops around their town. He had signed contracts with one of the large auto rental companies to provide maintenance and repair work for their fleet of cars. He had contracts with the US government to provide them with similar services, as well as the insurance company Kathy worked for, plus others. The largest shop had 10 bays in it. One shop did nothing but customizing work, and the other, the one she walked into, worked on late-model high-end automobiles like Ferraris and Lamborghinis. It was his favorite shop, as it was the first one he opened. He had a small office in the rear where he took care of all the accounting work for all 3 shops. He stayed late to do some paperwork when she walked in. Usually, he locked up the shop before starting and did not know why he had forgotten that day. Tom told Kathy he was very happy to have forgotten. He told her where he lived. He was proud of the 3-bedroom house he had purchased on the outskirts of town 2 years prior. It seemed that Kathy's hunch was correct. They ate dinner, drank wine, talked, and drank more wine. They played some games while drinking still more. The evening was drawing to a close, and Kathy made the bold move of asking Tom to stay a little longer. He wasn't sure what a little longer meant, but he quickly came to his own decision. Tom went to Kathy, took her in his arms, and gave her a passionate kiss. Then he backed away and told her he could not stay. Kathy whispered, "Don't you like me, Tom?" He replied, "Yes, Kathy, I do like you. In fact, I like you a lot. But I see more in you. I know I have only known you for a short time, but I see a future for us. I want to get to know you better. I want to take it slow so we both can know what we will be getting into. I don't want a sexual relationship to complicate things. Besides, anticipation will just make it better if we do decide to take it to another level. Do you understand?" Kathy had never been turned down before, but this did not feel like a turn down. This was a promise of something more. It was for a chance, that something solid and real. For the first time in a long time, she felt good about a man. This man knew what he wanted, and she felt sure he wanted her. He wanted to make sure she wanted him. She took a leap of faith and told him, "Not many men who turn me down get a second chance. You, however, just might be the one to get another chance. Oh, and just so you know, I do understand," she added that night. Tom went home and went to bed. He tried to sleep, but sleep would not come. All he could think about was the beautiful woman he had turned down tonight. His mind was occupied by visions of what they might be doing right at this moment. He tossed and turned, thinking what a fool he must be to turn her down. Sleep was a long time coming. Kathy got dressed for bed, but first, she had to keep her promise to Lisa. Kathy told Lisa all about the evening and the chemistry they shared. Kathy then revealed, "I kind of asked him to stay over." "You asked him to stay over? Have you lost your mind?" "You just met him today," Lisa thundered. Kathy groaned, "Don't worry, he turned me down." Lisa was more shocked that he said no. Lisa joked, "He must be gay." Kathy laughed, "Not from the goodnight kiss he gave me. I can definitely confirm he is not gay." Tom tossed and turned while Kathy slept like a baby. She did not feel like she was alone, she felt like he was there with her. In a sense, he was. Somehow, he had gotten into her heart. She could still feel his strong arms around her and felt safe and enveloped in them. Her lips still tingled with the passion of their kiss. It took for months for Tom to come to the realization that he was in love with Kathy. She was sure much sooner. 1 year later, Tom and Kathy were married. It was a small service with only a few friends and relatives attending. They moved into Tom's house on Kensington Street and started their life together. The CD stopped playing. Kathy did not seem to notice, she was too wrapped up in her pleasant memories. She ejected the CD and slipped it into the case along with the card. She bypassed the next 2 white cases and went for the gold case. The gold and silver cases were special, they held the fondest memories for her. She opened the box and took out the CD and the card. She had received the box on the morning of her wedding day. She, along with her bridesmaids, was getting ready for Kathy's big day. The doorbell rang, and one of her bridesmaids opened the door. It was a FedEx carrier delivering the gold box. She took it to Kathy, and they searched all over until they found a guest with a small portable CD player. They all watched as she opened the gold box and put the CD into the player. Kathy started reading the card and then pressed play. An old tune by the Times called "So Much in Love" started playing. Soon, Kathy read the lines on the card. "When we walk down the aisle together, we will vow to be together till we die. So much love have we, too, just can't wait to say I do. So in love, so much in love." Tears welled up in Kathy's eyes. When Lisa started yelling, "Don't start crying, it will ruin your makeup," Lisa waved her hands in Kathy's face to blow cool air across her. One of the bridesmaids teased, "With a card and song like that, if you can't make it down the aisle, I won't mind filling in for you." Kathy snorted, "Don't you even think about it. I sure as hell will make it to that altar. I don't know why I ever made you a bridesmaid." They all started laughing at that, and the makeup crisis was averted. When Kathy got to the church right before the bridal march started, she peeked into the church to see Tom standing at the altar, talking to his best man. He looked so good in his tuxedo. She was filled with pride for her man and wondered how she ever got this lucky. She made a vow to do her best to make him as happy as possible. Kathy was smiling when she thought about how she felt just before her wedding. Then the smile vanished as she realized how badly she had let Tom down. What should have been a wonderful memory no longer was. Kathy quickly slipped the card and CD back into the gold box and placed it back in its place among the row of boxes. Kathy's eyes went past the next two white boxes to the first of the silver boxes. She opened the box and read the words written inside. She slipped the CD into the player, and Frank Sinatra's smooth voice filled the room. She remembered when Tom came home from work on their first wedding anniversary. She had been getting ready all day. First, she went to the salon to get her hair and nails done. Kathy also had a Brazilian wax. He was always pestering her about getting one. Having herself waxed clean was going to be his anniversary present. He had been hinting to her that he would like the bald look on her. She heard him come into the house and call to her. She walked to the top of the stairway and was still putting her earrings on when he came around the corner. She had taken 2 steps down the flight of stairs when he saw her. He stopped dead in his tracks and stared at her with his mouth open. As she got halfway down the stairs, he actually dropped the silver box, and the card and CD spilled out. He was mesmerized by the way she looked as she walked down the stairs. He did not move until she was on the last step. He remembered the silver box and knelt down to pick it up. It spilled its contents onto the floor. Then he looked up at her from his knees. She had 4-inch black pumps on her feet. His eyes traveled up her legs until he got to mid-thigh where the hem of her little black dress started. He continued up to her waist, then to her neck. The neckline was low-cut to show generous amounts of cleavage. Thin spaghetti straps continued to her shoulders. Her hair was piled high on top of her head. Her brown eyes sparkled, delighted with the effect she had on her husband. When he stood in front of her, she saw he had the silver box in his left hand and a jewelry box in his right. He led her to the couch, where they sat down. He handed her the jewelry box and watched her open it, saying, "Happy anniversary, my love." When she opened the box, she squealed with delight at the 16-inch diamond choker necklace. She hugged him and made sure he felt her body, another surprise for him tonight. She took it out and asked him to put it on for her. When he was done, she stood, went to a mirror in the room, and looked at herself, turning left and right. It was the most beautiful gift she had ever received. She turned to see her husband, who was looking at her with joy. There was nothing that gave him more pleasure than making her happy. Seeing her like this filled his heart. He then opened the box and took out the CD and put it in the player. "May I have this dance, beautiful lady?" he beamed. "This is the most appropriate gift I have ever given to you. You are so beautiful." Tonight, Frank Sinatra's rendition of The Way You Look Tonight played on the player, the same way it played today in Kathy's bedroom. "Someday when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Yes, you're lovely, with your smile so warm and your cheek so soft, there is nothing for me but to love you and the way you look tonight." They danced quietly in each other's arms, bathed in the glow of love they had for each other. When the song ended, Tom begged, "Kathy, why don't we just skip dinner out and retire to the bedroom?" Kathy replied, "No way, Buster. I spent a lot of time and your money getting ready for this night, and we are going out." Tom once again suggested, "Honey, all I need is you, and the hell with dinner. We can eat afterward." Kathy responded, "Wasn't it you who once told me that it would be better to wait and let the anticipation build? Then it would be better." Kathy smirked. Tom mumbled, "No, I am not right all the time about that anticipation thing." Kathy laughed, "No, you were right then, and waiting until after we go out would be right tonight too." Tom laughed at that. He knew this was one fight he would lose. Fighting with his beautiful, sexy wife was the last thing he wanted tonight. Previously, Tom told Kathy about his plans for the night, and she made sure they did all he had planned to do. First, they had a delicious dinner at an expensive Japanese steakhouse. After dinner, they went to a local comedy club and stayed through 2 comedians. Then they went to a small piano bar where they danced, had a few drinks, and some intimate conversation. On the ride home, they could not keep their hands off each other. They both realized the anticipation thing really worked. Kathy once again found herself smiling at the memory. They had spent most of that night making sweet, gentle love. That night was Kathy's favorite memory of her marriage to Tom. It was the perfect night. Kathy stood and went to her jewelry box. She opened it and took out the diamond choker. It had meant so much to her that night. She held the necklace and brought it across her lips. A tear came down her cheek. She returned the necklace to the jewelry box and went back to the bed and put the card and CD back in their place in the row of boxes. She skipped the next white box and went to the second silver box. She placed the CD in the player, and Nat King Cole's satiny voice started singing Unforgettable. She remembered the night of her 2nd anniversary. It was a Saturday, and he had to go out to run a small errand. Even though she knew he had made arrangements to go out again, she had other plans. She was waiting in the living room for him in a pale blue see-through negligee. She was totally bare underneath. As the front door opened, she suddenly had the thought that she hoped Tom didn't bring home a friend with him while she stood there, practically naked in her living room. She did not have to worry, bringing a friend home was not in Tom's mind tonight. Once again, she got the response she was hoping for when Tom saw her. He stopped and took in the sight of his sexy wife. For all intents and purposes, standing on his living room rug. Kathy saw 2 boxes, one in each of Tom's hands, same as last year. He walked towards her, placing the boxes on an end table on his way. As he reached for his wife, she put her hands on his chest and gently pushed him back. He had a questioning look on his face as she did this. The boxes first, sweetie, then the sweets. Smiling, he turned to get the boxes and returned to his wife. He gave her the jewelry box, and she opened it. It contained a diamond bracelet and earrings to match the diamond choker necklace he gave her last year. "Honey, be a dear and put these on for me, please," giggled Kathy. She groaned at first, then gave him a playful swat, saying, "You have one more box to give me." Tom gave her the silver box. She opened it and gave him the CD. She did not even read the card, she just gave him the CD to put in the player. As King Cole's beautiful lyrics played, she grabbed Tom and gave him a smoldering kiss. Neither one of them heard much of the song as they made love right there in front of the fireplace. 2 hours later, they called out for a delivery pizza. Their anniversary meal was pizza and wine. Tom beamed, "This is even better than last year. It's the perfect meal after a strenuous workout." Kathy chipped in, "Yes, it is. Maybe we could do a repeat of the workout." They repeated the workout and the pizza and wine meal many times in the months to come. It was not until the next morning that Kathy read the card that came with the CD. There, in Tom's block-style printing, were the words he wanted her to remember, "Unforgettable in every way, and forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too." Kathy thought about that night. She thought about the pale blue negligee. It had been lost in the move, never to be seen again. She wished she had it now. If she did have it, she knew it would bring back more of the special memories of that night. She put the card and CD away. Now she went to the last white box, just before the blue boxes. Those awful blue boxes, the blue boxes with the pain inside, could wait. She would play the last of the white boxes first. This was the last box before the loss of innocence in the marriage. At least it was for Tom, not for Kathy. She had been seeing another man, not just any man, it was the man of her dreams, her first lover. Yes, JN had returned. 5 months had passed since the night of her second anniversary. That night they had shared their love for one another. Unknown to Tom, his worst nightmare became a reality. Kathy's fantasy man had returned. He had been back for 2 months. Dr. Williams was setting up practice and needed insurance. He had come to the office and was speaking with another associate when Kathy walked by. JN noticed her first and called out, "Kathy, is that you?" Kathy turned to look at John, and her heart started to flutter. All the old feelings came thundering back. It was like he had never left. "John, when did you get back?" she explained. John stood and gave Kathy a big hug. When he returned, John told her, "You haven't changed since high school. You were still a beautiful woman. You have become even more handsome, if that were possible." He smiled and suggested, "Why don't we get lunch and catch up on old times?" Kathy happily replied, "I would love to. Let me go to my desk and get my purse." They went off arm in arm. She did not notice the disapproving look she got from most of the other women who worked in the office. They all noticed how she seemed to swoon for this guy. All thoughts of her husband went out the window. If only Kathy could see what they saw trouble ahead. All of them had met Tom over the past 3 years, and they all liked him. Many were jealous of what Kathy had and wanted it themselves. They would watch and see what developed. One of these women was Grace. If Kathy messed up, she would not feel bad about replacing Kathy in Tom's life. She would wait and see what developed. Grace felt if Kathy screwed up, she would happily take her place. Kathy willingly went to lunch with JN. She told herself that it was just to catch up with an old friend. She knew in the deepest recesses of her mind that if John came on to her, she would go with him. She would betray her marriage and her husband without so much as a second thought. The fantasy of JN she had built in her mind was much too enticing to resist. She would not admit it even to herself yet, still, she knew it. When Kathy got back from her lunch with John, her friend Lisa met her and ushered her into the ladies' room and locked the door. Lisa asked her friend directly, "What are you, a married woman, doing with that handsome guy?" Kathy stammered, "It was only lunch with an old friend from school, nothing more." Lisa didn't seem so sure. The gossip started as soon as the two of you left the office, and some of what was said you would not like. Everyone thought that it was more than just lunch with an old friend. Kathy assured Lisa, that is all it was. It was nothing other than lunch with a high school classmate. Lisa felt relieved. Kathy was her best friend, and she had nursed her through some tough times with a former lover who jilted her. Tom was the first man that treated her like a queen, and she knew he would never hurt her. Lisa informed Kathy, "If you were smart, you won't let any feelings develop for this other guy." "What was his name anyway?" she asked. Kathy sheepishly told her, "John Williams." Lisa exploded, "The John Williams who cheated on you then left you years ago without as much as a word? This is the guy you went to lunch with? You told me if you ever saw him again, you would slap him in the face, not give him a hug and a kiss." Kathy barked, "I did not kiss him." Lisa sneered, "You're a liar. I was looking out the window when you got back and saw the lip lock you put on that ass. You see him one time, and now you're lying to me?" Kathy sat down on one of the upholstered chairs in the ladies' restroom. "I'm sorry for lying to you. I couldn't help myself. He brought out the desire I have always felt for him." Kathy commiserated. Lisa responded, "You're going to screw up your marriage if you don't stop this immediately. I am your best friend and will stand behind you in almost anything you do. However, this one thing I will not support you on." Kathy told Lisa, I know you're right. I promise I won't do anything to put my marriage in jeopardy. This statement mollified Lisa, but she still had her doubts if she would actually take her advice. Sadly, Kathy was not strong enough to fight off the vision of a knightly John Williams. Lisa felt she had done all she could and said, "Let's get back to work." For the first few weeks, it was lunches and pleasant conversation, nothing more. Soon came a drink after work if Tom had to stay late. A few weeks of drink dates followed. John was smooth, he was not rushing things. He wanted Kathy back, he was not sure if what he felt was love or maybe he just wanted to get into her pants. He was in no rush, he was sure he would be doing the horizontal mambo with Kathy soon. If love came out of it, fine, if not, it would be a pleasant interlude until something better came along. The fact that she was married meant nothing to him. After a while, the drink dates became hot make-out sessions. Next, there were hot make-out sessions with lots of touching and groping. They were acting just like high school kids with a crush on each other. She was not sure if she could have gone all the way if Tom hadn't had to go to a training session in Pittsburgh. It wasn't just a training session, it was a chance to meet people in the industry, schmooze a little, and make new contacts. It was good business. Tom asked Kathy to go with him, but she said she could not get time off. She could see he was disappointed, but he understood. Did she not want to go on purpose? Was it an excuse to see John? She wouldn't admit it, but that was the reason. While Tom was away, John and Kathy could really catch up on old times. It was to be a 5-day conference, it would start Monday morning and end Friday night. Tom's flight would leave Sunday at noon, and he would arrive back home at 3 p.m. on Saturday. It would give the two would-be lovers 5 days and 6 nights to do whatever two willing adults wanted to do. Unbeknownst to Tom, Kathy took 5 vacation days the week he would be gone to spend more time with John. The betrayal was complete, all that was left to do was to have sex. As soon as the computer confirmed that Tom's flight had left the airport, Kathy called John to come over to the house on Kensington Street to complete the betrayal of her marriage. John did spend 6 nights and 5 days in Tom's bed, he also spent much of that time in Tom's wife as well. The sex was just as Kathy imagined it would be. John had become an accomplished lover. As a serial womanizer, he had become a predator, wine-filled nights, ecstasy, and other drugs befuddled Kathy's mind. By Friday evening, John's seduction and conquest of Kathy were complete. Of course, Kathy's cheating actually started the day John walked into the insurance agency office. It only took him 5 days to capture Kathy's heart, while it took Tom months. Of course, John's conquest was accomplished with lots of sex and drugs. Tom's did not. By Saturday morning, Kathy was planning to leave Tom to be with John. JN would be closing on his new home in 2 weeks, he was living in a small hotel room until the closing took place. Kathy would have to live with Tom until the closing. John left at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. 1 hour later, someone knocked on the front door. Kathy answered it, and it was a local florist with a large bouquet of flowers. There was also a white box to go along with the flowers. Tom must have planned this a week in advance. Kathy tipped the driver and sent him on his way. She opened the box and took out the card and the CD inside. She put the CD in the player, and she was surprised that it was a country tune. This was not the first time Tom sent her a country song in the boxes, however, as she listened to the music, she knew the song fit perfectly. It was a song called 6 Days on the Road. It started like this: well, I pulled out of Pittsburgh, rolling down the eastern seaboard, and ended with, well, my rig's a little old, but that don't mean she's slow. My hometown's coming in sight. If you think I'm happy, you're right. 6 days on the road, and I'm going to make it home tonight. Kathy wondered how in the hell he found that CD. She knew he would be happy to be home with her again. She knew he would want sex right away. Kathy hoped she could pull it off and not let Tom know. She hoped she could keep it a secret for 2 weeks. The limo pulled into the driveway at 4 p.m., 6 hours after she had received the flowers. Tom got out, paid, and tipped the driver, and put his suitcases on the porch. Tom was excited to see his wife. What surprise would she have for him when he entered the house? Would she be wearing a new negligee, some kind of sexy outfit, or maybe no outfit at all? The images of his wife that danced in his mind were more than he could stand. Anticipation had worked its magic again. He opened the door and was surprised to see Kathy sitting on the couch in the living room. She was wearing a t-shirt and old shorts. She got up and went to him to give him a kiss and a hug. Tom was shocked that she was wearing a bra and panties too. This was not the reception he was expecting. He tried to encourage his wife to go to the bedroom and relieve 6 days of pent-up sexual desire. "I'm tired now. Maybe tonight, okay?" Kathy suggested. Maybe tonight? What the hell was going on? Who is this woman and what did she do with my wife? Dejected, he went out to the porch to bring in the suitcases. Having nothing better to do, he put all the dirty clothes in the hamper, put his toiletries back, and put away the suitcases in the attic. When he was done, he went into the kitchen where Kathy was making dinner. He walked up behind her, slipped his arms around her waist, and started softly kissing her neck. She shrugged him off, saying, "Not now. You see, I'm trying to cook. Just leave me alone now." Rejected as well, Tom left the kitchen to sit in the living room. He pondered the changes in his wife and was not happy with his thoughts. This was not the woman he left last Sunday. Something happened during the trip, and she seemed not to want to talk about it. Trouble was brewing, it was not apparent what it would be. Kathy was worried. She knew she wasn't doing a good job of keeping everything the same. Kathy felt so damn guilty, she could not look him in the eye, much less kiss and hold him. Kathy knew this was going badly and went sneaking a peek into the living room and saw her husband staring out the window. She knew she had blown it, she could tell by the body language he was suspicious, yet Kathy had no idea what to do. After dinner, he practically forced her up to the bedroom. They did not make gentle love the way they usually did when he returned from a trip. They had sex. It was not the usual gentle, sensual sex they normally had. It was rough and just the one time. After they were done, he rolled off and just looked at her. She turned away and started crying. Tom got up, took a shower, got dressed, and left the house. He did not come back until Sunday night. When he returned, Kathy asked, "Where did you spend the night?" He responded angrily, "I had paperwork to catch up on and spent the night at the shop." Kathy spoke, "I was worried, you didn't call." He responded, "Don't you have a phone? Are your fingers broken?" Nothing more was said between them that night. Kathy put the CD away, she thought maybe that should have been in a blue box too. The homecoming went terribly wrong. What could she expect? She had cheated on her husband and was guilty as hell about it. Worse, she had planned on leaving him for another man, and now he suspected something. Kathy picked up the first of the blue boxes. She hesitated before opening it, this was when the pain started. She opened the box and took out the CD, there was no card. Her cheating had changed the tradition of the boxes. She pushed the CD into the player and heard the song begin. She remembered how she received the box, it came at work on Monday with an unusual bouquet of lavender flowers. Kathy would later learn that lavender was the flower of distrust. If any of the girls knew that, they did not say. As usual, the girls gathered around to hear the song he had sent her. Only this time, Kathy wasn't sure she wanted the girls to hear this song, she had no idea what would be on the CD. The girls kept pressing her to play the song like she always did when a box came in. Finally, she could resist them no longer and put the CD into the player. They all listened as the song began, it was a Bob Seger tune. "I know it's late, I know you're weary. I know your plans don't include me. All of my hopes fading away. We've got it all now, let's make it last. Let's find a way. Why don't you stay?" The girls listened quietly at first and then looked at Kathy with disapproving glares. They had all seen Kathy with John and were not surprised to figure out that Tom had caught her. One of the older ladies in the group named Rose asked her, "Kathy, what have you done?" Kathy decided that what was done was done. She was planning on leaving Tom in 2 weeks, and they would all know about it anyway. Why try to hide it now? She looked at them defiantly and told them, I am leaving Tom in 2 weeks. I will be moving in with JN, the man I have been seeing. Is that what you wanted to hear? Rose responded, No, that's not what I wanted to hear, but it is what I expected. You may not realize it now, but I think you are making a huge mistake. Your husband is crazy about you. He's also one of the best men I know. I doubt the new man in your life will last anyway. You can stop now before it is too late. It may be too late anyway. You heard the CD, he suspects something already, said Kathy. It will be your loss if he leaves, and some other girl's lucky day. Rose walked away shaking her head. The other girls started wandering back to work too. Only 2 girls remained, one was Grace, the other her friend Lisa. Grace asked Kathy, Are you really planning to leave Tom? Kathy snapped angrily, Yes, I am, Grace. Grace only nodded, turned, and walked away. Lisa was left throwing daggers at Kathy. You didn't take my advice. Don't come crying to me when this all goes to hell. I am very disappointed in you. I was wondering why I haven't heard from you, why you haven't answered any of my phone calls. Lisa turned on her heels and stomped off. Kathy knew she was mad, but she would come around when she saw how good her relationship with John would be. Kathy was sure she was making the right choice. Kathy took the CD out of the player and put it away. She looked at the CD and the box once again and wondered why she didn't do what Lisa wanted her to. She went home that night and confronted Tom about the song. She yelled at him, Why did you send me that? I am your wife, really? He spat, I thought you might be more interested in someone else. Saturday felt like you were anything but my wife. The card and CD just fit what I am thinking. You're wrong, Tom, you're just wrong, she spat back. She knew he wasn't. He was right on target. Why couldn't she just admit it? She had the chance to tell him the truth, but she did not take it. Kathy realized that back then she subconsciously did not want to tell him. She did not want the reality to be true. For the second time, she wiped away a tear. She put the box away. Kathy's fingers ran along the tops of the boxes and stopped on the second blue box. She remembered when she received this box. It was the day after she received the Bob Seger song. She arrived at the Kensington Street home, and it was lying on the porch, up against the front door. As soon as she saw it, she looked around to see if he was there. She saw no one. She quickly scooped up the blue box and took it inside the house. She thought she should play it before John returned home. As she opened the box, she saw the usual note inside and opened the folded paper to read it. Instead of the usual song lyrics, there was a short letter to Kathy. It began, My love, I know you so well, maybe better than you know yourself. You were my precious gem, a diamond. I knew every facet, cut, and angle, at least I thought I did. I looked deep into the middle of that diamond, it was like looking deep into your heart, your soul. I never saw the imperfection, but I see it now. The song on the CD says what my mind thinks, as my heart screams that I must be wrong. If my mind is wrong, please call me. I would go to my knees to ask, no, beg your forgiveness. If you don't, I will know that when I fell in love with you, I missed the imperfection. Love blinds, and blind eyes cannot see. I await your answer, my love. What will it be? Kathy's lips trembled, and she fought back a tear. She placed the CD in the player, and Ronnie Milsap started singing Stranger in My House. I can't find the love in her eyes anymore. I'm beginning to understand. I feel the presence of another man. She sits staring out the window, a million miles away. Is she loving him in her mind while she's lying here in my bed? There's a stranger in my house. Somebody's here trying to take her away from me. Of course, Kathy did not call. Once more, Tom and the song were correct. Kathy was stunned that he could see the situation so clearly. Why couldn't Tom understand that she didn't want to hurt him? She was just in love with another man. Maybe she should have told him up front. Kathy realized she never told him the truth. Why not? It was a question she did not want to answer, even to herself. Were second thoughts creeping into her mind? Impossible. Kathy pushed the thought out of her mind. No call would come Tom's way. The cheating wife could not tell him. He was right about his suspicions. Kathy picked up the third blue box. In some ways, this was the worst box. Tom was spending more overnights at the office. He would come home one night, not the next, due to the uncertainty of Tom's actions. Kathy and John had not been able to get together during the week. They had decided to take a chance that Tom would not be home that Friday night. Kathy drove by the shop near her job. Ironically, that was where Tom had taken up residence when he did not return home. She drove by at 7 p.m., and his car was there. Deducing that he would not be coming home again tonight, Kathy called John on his cell phone. She told him the coast was clear and to meet her at the house. What Kathy didn't realize was that Tom was coming home. He was looking for just the right song to burn on a CD. He was also writing the card by hand. He wanted to talk to Kathy and try to save their marriage. Tom knew something was wrong. He thought she was seeing someone else. After all, she did not make a call as he requested if he was wrong. Yet, all he had were suspicions, nothing solid. He would confront her tonight and try to stay together. It wasn't until 8:30 that Tom left his shop. It took him a half hour to drive across town to his home. When Tom turned onto his street, he saw a strange car parked in front of his home. As Tom was the strange car, set off alarm bells in his mind. Tom was terrified of what he might find, but he had to know. He pulled 5 houses past his home and parked on the street. Tom went to the front door carrying a bouquet of flowers and a white box. He tried the doorknob. It was locked. Quietly, he slipped the key in the lock and turned the knob again. The door opened, and Tom slowly walked inside. As he walked through the house, he could hear nothing until he came to the bottom of the stairs, the same stairs he watched his wife descend in her little black dress on the night of their first anniversary. He thought how beautiful she looked that night, and the memory made him smile until he heard the voices and what he thought was the bed moving. His mood turned black and cold, the smile fled his face. Tom walked up the stairs, carefully avoiding the squeaky 5th step. The house was cool as he approached the bedroom door, but sweat was pouring off his face. Tom slowly opened the door a crack, and his worst fears were realized. There on his marital bed was his wife and another man. They were in the missionary position, and he could see the man moving in and out of his wife. Tom recognized him immediately. He had seen pictures in her high school yearbook of this man. Kathy had told him about their dating and that he took her virginity. The man was her first love. It was John Williams. Tears welled in his eyes as his heart broke. The knowing was worse than he realized it would be. Tom knew he should walk in and beat the culprit up, but then where would the sense be in that? He would go to jail with his wife testifying against him at his trial. No, he would just leave and let the events play out. Tom walked back down the stairs. Even stepping on the 5th step, it made no difference. The lovers were too engrossed in what they were doing to hear. Tom left the flowers on the kitchen table, opened the box, and broke the CD in half, leaving it on the counter with the flowers. He took the card and walked out of the house, slamming the door on the way out. Kathy remembered what happened next. Kathy whispered, "Did you hear that?" Impatiently, John replied, "I didn't hear anything." He wanted to continue making love. "No, I heard something." She pushed John off her, put on a robe, and went downstairs. She had a sinking feeling when she saw the flowers and the broken CD in the white box. The white box meant he was sorry and wanted her back. Now she was sure he knew. She did not know if he saw them or just heard him leave. She felt terrible. She never wanted to hurt Tom like this. Yes, she knew she would hurt him when she left, but not like this. Kathy was troubled by her reaction. She was leaving him. What did she care? She had her man. It was John. Tom's feelings really should not matter to her. It was confusing, but she put it out of her mind. John finally came down and saw the flowers. John thought, Tom is a chicken for letting him take his wife away so easily and not putting up a fight. So, the chicken was here with flowers and a CD. How pathetic. Kathy really did not think it was pathetic, but decided it was not worth fighting about. Tom did not come back to the house for a week. John never left, practically moving in. Kathy woke from her reverie and looked at the boxes in the case. She wished now she could have that broken CD in the white box. She might not have the other blue boxes or the black and red boxes if she did. Kathy put the CD in the player and read the card. The song that started playing was Roy Orbison's Running Scared. Kathy read the words on the card, neatly typed and pasted inside the card, no longer in funny block printing. She thought, so cute, just running scared, feeling low, running scared, you love him so, just running scared, afraid to lose. If he came back, which one would you choose? Then all at once he was standing there, so sure of himself, his head in the air, my heart was breaking, which one would it be? You turned around and walked away with me. That was what Roy Orbison sang, it was different on the card. The last line on the card read, will you leave with him or stay with me? Kathy remembered when she received this box. It was delivered by FedEx on Monday morning. No flowers or gifts accompanied the blue box. The girls, now more curious than ever, once again crowded around Kathy's cubicle to listen to the CD. This time, Kathy refused to play the CD or read the card. She now knew that a blue box was not a good color. Evidently, the girls did too and begged her to play it, but Kathy held firm. It wasn't until after work when she got into her Toyota, the same one that Tom had fixed that first night, that Kathy started to open the box. When she heard a knock on the window, it was her friend Lisa and the older lady Rose. Lisa asked, do you mind if we listen to the CD Tom sent you? We will sit in the car with you and just listen to the CD. We won't say anything, just offer support if you want it. Kathy acknowledged, I could use some friends to listen to this with me. Do you promise not to judge me? The girls shook their heads, and Kathy let them into the car. The girls sat quietly, Lisa in front with Kathy and Rose in the back seat. Kathy opened the box and hesitated for a few moments, then slipped the disc into her car's CD player and read the card. The girls listened quietly while the CD played. She read the card and then passed it to the other women in the car. Lisa cried as she read the card and listened to the song. She knew he was pouring his heart out, he opened up to her, telling her his fear of losing her to another man. He also told her in the card that he would be coming back to his home on Saturday morning. He made it clear that she would have to make up her mind by then. He ended his card by writing, I hope you will choose me. Rose read the card and inquired, Kathy, what are your plans? Kathy told them, I'm leaving with JN Saturday morning. Rose just nodded her head and remarked, I wish I had someone who loved me enough to ask me back, even after he was sure I had cheated on him. Kathy responded, Rose, aren't you the one who has been divorced twice? Of course, you are right. Rose replied sadly, but if I could go back in time, I would never have cheated on Chad, my first husband. I realized too late he was the love of my life. I have really never been as happy since he left me. That may be so, but I am sure that John is the man I am destined to share my life with. Lisa thanked Kathy for sharing the contents of the box with them, and they swore they would never tell anyone about it. Kathy thanked them for honoring her request for secrecy. As the ladies left the car, Kathy went home and discussed what to do with John. Leave and let him come home to an empty house, he suggested. He will understand and he lost you to the better man. That should end it. Kathy felt she could not do that to him and told John, he was always fair and honest with me. I was always treated well, like someone special. I owe it to him to tell him face to face. If that's what you want, do it. It has to be over by Saturday, he instructed. At 9:45 a.m., Kathy was sitting at the kitchen table, the last two of her bags were placed by the door. She had taken all of the things that she wanted the day before and moved them into John's new place. Promptly at 10 a.m., Tom walked through the door of his home. The first thing he saw were the packed suitcases and instantly realized Kathy's decision had not been him. Kathy could see where there had been hope on his face moments before, it was now replaced with sadness. Without acknowledging her, he walked to the fridge, pulled out a beer, twisted the top off, and threw it into the sink. He sat down in the chair across from her and took a long drink from the bottle. "I guess you answered the question," he said finally. Kathy was confused. "What question?" she asked. After taking another long drink from his beer, he replied, "You're leaving with him and not staying with me." "Oh," was all the answer she could muster. He took another drink and asked her, "You love him?" "Yes, so there is no use fighting for you, is there?" "No, I am sorry, Tom," she whispered. He took another drink from his bottle and slammed it down on the table, never looking at her. He said, "I think it is time now, get out of my house." Kathy was shocked at his choice of words, he had never used profanity at her before. "Will you help carry my bags outside?" Tom put the bottle to his lips and finally finished his beer and once again slammed it down on the table. "It's your decision to go, carry your own goddamn bags." Once again shocked by his words, Kathy first carried one, then the second bag out to the porch. Once Kathy was outside, the face-to-face over, she sent a text to John to come over to pick her up. She was not happy about the way things went, she wanted to try to explain what happened and how she felt. She wanted to tell him she still loved him, just not the way she loved John. She wanted to be kind about the whole thing, but Tom had other ideas. If she did not want him, then she had to go to him, it was that simple. She thought, then again, how could she blame him? Kathy looked at the house that she had lived in for more than 3 years. They had been happy once. She thought she heard a noise from inside the kitchen and went to look inside the window. She was dismayed to see Tom sitting in the chair with his back to her, his body racked with silent sobs. She was shocked to see her strong husband crying like a baby. She made the mistake of putting her hand to the window as her wedding ring tapped the glass, and he turned a glare at her. He walked outside, grabbed her left hand, and quickly removed her engagement and wedding ring off her finger. Never speaking, he went back into the house and threw them on the table. They bounced off the table type and fell to the floor. Tom made no effort to retrieve them. Kathy was looking at him through the window, he walked to the window, all the while glaring at her, and slowly closed the blinds. His eyes never left hers until the blinds totally closed. Kathy had never seen such a look of hate from anyone before. For the first time, she was scared of her husband. She was also scared for John. John thought, Tom is a coward. She knew or thought she knew until today that Tom would never hurt her, but she was not too sure about what he might do to John. She had no illusions, she knew her soon-to-be ex-husband would not be easy to best in a fight. John finally arrived at the quaint house on Kensington Street. As he was getting the bags off the porch, he threw loud insults at Tom inside the house. As they were pulling away, Kathy was relieved Tom did not come out of the house to confront JN. She had hoped they could part as friends, but that was not to be. Putting the ugly confrontation behind her, Kathy was happy she was with her long-lost love. They would now be starting a new life together. She would do the best she could to make him happy. Kathy put the disc into the blue box along with the card and placed it back into its spot in the case. She thought it ironic she said the same thing to Tom as she just thought about JN. She would do the best she could to make him happy. She had failed miserably. She pulled the next blue box from the case and looked inside. She remembered this one painfully well. She knew what the song was because this one had no card in it. As she took the CD from the box, she immediately thought of Tom's cousin Janice. In the day of her wedding shower, Kathy had been talking to some of her girlfriends as they were leaving when Janice walked up to her. Janice looked Kathy right in the eyes and asked, "Do you really love my cousin?" Kathy assured Janice, "Yes, I do. I love him very much." "I hope you mean that," Janice warned. "I don't want Tom hurt anymore." Kathy asked her why she was so concerned. Janice gave Kathy the short version of Tom's childhood, saying, Tom's mother died of stomach cancer when he was 7 years old. His father turned to alcohol and drank himself to death with cirrhosis of the liver when he was 12. He was taken in by my family. My mom is his aunt, his mother's sister. For some reason, Dad did not want the responsibility of raising Tom, but Mom insisted that only family would raise her sister's boy. As a result, Tom was always made to feel unwanted by Dad, a burden on the family. Tom had commitment issues with girls in high school and was always absent from after-school functions. He was literally a lone wolf with no friends. The only thing that saved him was that he was one tough kid. He would fight anyone at the drop of a hat and usually won. While it did not make him any friends, most everybody left him alone. It didn't hurt me to have him as my older brother. The mention of his name to any bully usually ended any further problems.
Have you seen all the scars on Tom's body?
Kathy was interested. Tom would never speak about how he received the scars. Kathy said, I have. He told me they were from a bullet, shrapnel, and on the left side of his body, a knife cut. Janice continued, all the scars were related to his military experiences, except the knife cut. He had gotten that defending me inside a bar from 2 drunken bikers. Kathy had never heard about that and had to know what happened, and Janice was all too happy to tell her.